Remember, life isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Start small, stay consistent, and watch how these habits quietly change everything. Your future self will thank you. Every morning used to start the same way for me, alarm off, phone in hand, and 5 minutes later, I'd already be buried in emails, messages, and someone else's version of success on social media. Before I'd even gotten out of bed, my day was already hijacked. What changed everything was a simple shift. I stopped reaching for my phone and started reaching inward. The first few minutes of your day are sacred. They set the emotional and mental tone for everything that follows. So I began asking myself one simple question. Asterisk, what kind of person do I want to be today? Asterisk, not what do I want to achieve, not what do I need to fix, just who do I want to asterisk be asterisk. Calm, focused, grateful. That question pulled me out of reaction mode and into intention. It gave me a chance to choose my identity for the day before the world had a say in it. Over time, this small habit gave me a sense of control I didn't know I was missing. I wasn't just waking up. I was asterisk showing up asterisk. For my goals, for my relationships, for myself. That mindset reset didn't just improve my mornings. It quietly redefined my entire life. There was a time when I'd wake up feeling foggy, unmotivated, and already behind. I thought I needed more sleep, more coffee, or more motivation to shake that feeling, but what I actually needed was momentum. I learned to stop waiting until I asterisk felt asterisk like moving, and started moving before I had time to talk myself out of it. Whether it was a 5-minute stretch, a quick walk around the block, or a few push-ups in my living room, it didn't have to be intense. It just had to asterisk happen asterisk. The simple act of moving my body early in the day gave my brain a signal. We're in motion now, we're not stuck. That physical shift created a mental one. I stopped overthinking and started asterisk doing asterisk. It gave me a sense of clarity and energy that no amount of sitting around and planning ever did. The beauty of movement is that it doesn't just change how you feel physically, it changes how you think. It's a message to yourself that you're capable, that you're not stagnant, and that today doesn't have to look like yesterday. I began to see movement not as a workout, but as a wake-up call for the mind. For the longest time, my internal dialogue was harsh, critical, and unforgiving. I'd mess up the smallest thing and immediately spiral into thoughts like, "You're such an idiot," or "Why can't you just get it right?" I wouldn't have said those words to a stranger, let alone someone I loved. So why was I saying them to myself? Everything started to shift when I began treating myself the way I would treat someone I deeply cared about. Instead of beating myself up for every mistake, I paused and asked, what would I say to a friend who's feeling this way? The answer was always kinder, more compassionate, and far more helpful. It's easy to think that self-criticism will motivate us, but the truth is, it only makes us afraid to try. When I changed the tone of my inner voice, I felt safer in my own mind. I could take more risks, learn from failures, and move forward without dragging the weight of shame. That habit of speaking gently to myself didn't make me weaker. It made me stronger. It taught me that real confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from having your own back, especially when things go wrong. There was a point in my life where I realized I was playing it safe, not because I lacked ambition, but because I was letting fear quietly dictate my choices. I avoided difficult conversations, delayed decisions, and turned down opportunities that made my stomach turn, even if they excited me deep down. That's when I made a new rule for myself. Do one scary thing every week. It didn't have to be huge, it just had to stretch me. Sometimes it was sending that message I'd been putting off, speaking up in a meeting, or signing up for something I didn't feel ready for. and every time I did it, something powerful happened. I realized that fear shrinks when you walk toward it. It doesn't vanish, but it loses its grip. Over time, this weekly habit became a kind of training ground for courage. It reminded me that bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing action despite it. And as I stacked those small wins, I started to trust myself more. I became the kind of person who could do hard things, not all at once, but one bold step at a time. That changed not just what I did, but who I believed I was. I used to live everywhere except the present moment. My mind was constantly rewinding to the past, what I said, what I should have done, or fast forwarding into the future, worrying about things that hadn't even happened. It was exhausting. Even in the middle of beautiful moments, I found myself distracted, thinking about my to-do list or replaying old conversations. Then I heard a simple phrase that stopped me in my tracks. Be where your feet are. It reminded me that the only place life is actually happening is right here, right now. So I started practicing presence in small ways, feeling the ground beneath me during a walk, listening without planning my response in conversations, tasting my food instead of eating on autopilot. The more I brought my awareness to the present, the less overwhelmed I felt. Life became richer, not because everything changed, but because I was actually in it. I stopped missing the moments I used to overlook, and in doing that, I found a kind of peace that no productivity hack or future achievement could give me. Being where my feet are isn't always easy, but it's always worth it, because that's where real life is happening. There was a point when I realized I wasn't thinking my own thoughts anymore. I was constantly reacting to notifications, to messages, to the endless scroll of other people's opinions, wins, and dramas. Every few minutes, I'd check my phone out of habit, not necessity, and the more noise I consumed, the more scattered, anxious, and behind I felt. So I decided to cut the noise. I turned off non-essential notifications. I deleted apps I didn't need. I set time limits for social media and started being intentional about when and why I used my phone. It felt uncomfortable at first, like I was missing something important. But what I was actually missing was myself. Without the constant digital input, I started to hear my own voice again. I had space to think, to reflect, to just be. I could focus for longer than 10 minutes. I could enjoy silence without needing to fill it. And I realized that quiet isn't empty. It's full of clarity. Creating digital boundaries didn't disconnect me from the world. It reconnected me to what matters. It reminded me that not every ping deserves a response, and that peace isn't found in a screen. It's found in being fully present with your own life. For the longest time, I carried everything in my head: thoughts, worries, ideas, emotions, all tangled up in a chaotic mess. It was overwhelming, but I didn't realize how heavy it was until I started writing it down. Journaling became my way of clearing the mental clutter. At first, it was awkward. I didn't know what to write or if it even made sense. But that wasn't the point. The point was to get it out. I gave myself permission to write badly, to vent without filters, to let my thoughts spill freely onto the page. Over time, something powerful happened. I started to see patterns. I noticed what triggered my stress, what brought me joy, what beliefs were holding me back. Writing gave shape to feelings I couldn't explain before. It made the invisible visible. It turned confusion into clarity. Some days I wrote a few lines, other days I filled pages, but every time I walked away feeling lighter. Journaling didn't solve all my problems, but it gave me a way to process them. It became a mirror for my mind and a space where I could be brutally honest without judgment. In that space, I found answers I didn't even know I was looking for. For a long time, I thought saying yes was the right thing to do. It made me agreeable, dependable, easy to be around. but underneath every yes I didn't truly mean was a quiet resentment growing louder by the day. I said yes to plans I didn't have the energy for, to favors that drained me, to commitments that pulled me away from what actually mattered. And the worst part, I thought I was being kind, but constantly betraying your own needs isn't kindness, it's self-abandonment. Learning to say no was uncomfortable at first. I worried people would be upset, that I'd seem selfish or difficult. But then I realized, every time I say no to something that doesn't align, I'm saying yes to something that does. My peace, my priorities, my well-being. Saying no doesn't mean I care less. It means I care enough about myself to create space for what truly matters. It's not about building walls, it's about drawing lines that protect your energy. Boundaries aren't a punishment, they're a declaration of self-respect. The more I practiced saying no without apology, the more I noticed something incredible. The right people respected it, and the wrong ones revealed themselves quickly. For a long time, I underestimated the power of feeding my mind daily. I thought learning was something you did in school or during big life changes, not every single day. But then I noticed a pattern. On days I engaged with new ideas, whether through a podcast, a book, or even a short article, I felt energized, curious, and more connected to my goals. It wasn't about cramming information or trying to become an expert overnight. It was about showing up for myself consistently, even if only for 15 minutes. That small habit created a ripple effect. My thoughts became sharper, my perspective broader, and my motivation deeper. I began to see challenges as opportunities to learn rather than obstacles to fear. Feeding my mind daily gave me a steady stream of inspiration and a sense that I was growing, no matter what else was happening around me. It wasn't about impressing anyone or collecting facts. It was about nurturing a mindset that's open, flexible, and ready for whatever life throws my way. That habit became a way of saying yes to progress and no to stagnation. It reminded me that the journey to becoming who I want to be is fueled by curiosity and a commitment to lifelong learning. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned is how often our ego gets in the way of real connection. When conflict arises, it's easy to slip into wanting to be right, to win the argument, or to prove a point. But more often than not, that approach builds walls instead of bridges. Choosing love over ego means pausing and asking yourself, is this about being right, or is it about being close? It's about recognizing that relationships, whether with friends, family, or partners, aren't competitions to be won. They're spaces for understanding, growth, and compassion. When I started prioritizing connection over being right, everything changed. I listened more and argued less. I showed vulnerability instead of defensiveness. I realized that letting go of the need to control the narrative didn't mean losing. It meant creating room for empathy and healing. Choosing love doesn't mean ignoring boundaries or tolerating bad behavior, but it does mean approaching others with kindness even when it's hard. This shift didn't just improve my relationships, it deepened them. It reminded me that love is not about ego stroking or winning battles, but about showing up fully with an open heart, ready to understand and be understood.